That looks like a terrible accident. Let me run over and see what's happening. That car they crashed into looks like my father's car. Oh my God, I hope it's not him.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. Don't forget to help us grow by subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and sharing it with your friends. Your support means a lot. Thank you.
The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about the key locker 717. Those numbers echoed in my mind again and again. My father had trusted me with that key during his final moments. Whatever it opened had to be important. For the next few days, I searched all over Mumbai. I visited banks, storage facilities, and train stations, asking if they had a locker 717. Nobody could help me. By the fourth day, I was exhausted and frustrated. I began to think the locker might not even exist that evening. While sitting in my father's old chair, I found something hidden inside. One of his books. It was an old photograph. The picture showed my father standing beside three young men. All of them were smiling. On the back was a handwritten message: "Brothers forever, Mumbai Central, 2001. Below the message was a strange symbol, a golden lion. I had never seen this photo before. Who were these men? Why had my father hidden their picture? As I studied the image, I noticed something else. In the background stood an old building. The sign above the entrance was blurry, but I could still read part of it: Century Safe Deposit Services. My heart skipped a beat. A safe deposit company lockers. Could this be the place? The following morning, I traveled across the city searching for the building. After nearly 2 hours, I finally found it. The place looked old and forgotten. Inside sat an elderly receptionist. I approached her desk and showed her the key. "I'm looking for locker 717. The woman's eyes widened. "Who gave you this key?" she asked. "My father." "What was his name?" "Rajesh Sharma." The moment she heard his name, her expression changed completely. Without saying another word, she disappeared into a back office. A few minutes later, she returned with an elderly man in a dark suit. He stared at me carefully. "You're Rajesh's son?" "Yes." The man nodded. Slowly, "I've been expecting you." A chill ran through my body. "Expecting me? How?" He led me through several security doors, into a huge underground vault filled with lockers. Finally, we stopped. Locker 717. My hands trembled as I inserted the key. The lock clicked. The door slowly opened. Inside was a small black box and a sealed envelope. Written across the envelope were the words, "For Ravi, open alone." I carefully opened it. Inside was a letter, written in my father's handwriting. The first line brought tears to my eyes. "My son, you're reading this. It means I am no longer alive." I continued reading. "There is something I have hidden from you your entire life." Then, I reached the next sentence. The sentence that changed everything. "Ravi, I was never a taxi driver." I froze. Nothing made sense. My father had driven a taxi for years, hadn't he? As I searched through the black box, I found old documents, passports, photographs, and a newspaper clipping. The headline read, "4 men disappear after 500 million heist." Beneath the headline were 4 photographs. One of them was my father. I stared at the article in shock. The man I thought I knew had been hiding a secret life. But I wasn't the only one searching for answers. At that exact moment, someone else had learned that locker 717 had been opened, and they were already coming for me. For several minutes, I sat frozen inside the underground vault. The newspaper clipping shook in my hands. My father, a man connected to one of the biggest unsolved robberies in India's history? It was impossible to believe. I quickly returned to the letter. "Ravi, before you judge me, you must know the truth. The story the world believes is not what really happened." My heart pounded. 20 years ago, I was part of a team of 4 men. We were not criminals. We were betrayed. I read the lines again and again. Betrayed? By whom? Before I could continue, noticed something strange. The remaining pages of the letter were missing. Someone had removed them. The most important part of the story was gone. Suddenly, I heard hurried footsteps outside the vault. A few seconds later, the vault manager appeared. His face looked pale. "You need to leave immediately," he whispered. "What happened?" "Someone has been asking questions about locker 717. A chill ran down my spine. "Who?" "I don't know, but they arrived shortly after you." Without wasting time, he guided me through a rear exit. The moment I stepped outside, I saw a black SUV stopping near the front entrance. 3 men dressed in dark clothing stepped out. One of them was holding a photograph. My photograph. Fear exploded inside me. I turned and ran. The men spotted me instantly and began chasing me through the crowded streets of Mumbai. I pushed through pedestrians, crossed busy roads, and disappeared into a crowded train station. After several tense minutes, I finally lost them. Breathing heavily, I sat on a bench and opened the black box again. There had to be something I had missed. Then I discovered a hidden compartment. Inside was a small flash drive and a folded note. The note contained only one sentence: "Trust Vikram, trust no one else." Below it was an address. I had no idea who Vikram was, but he seemed to be my only lead. A few hours later, I arrived at the address. It led me to an old bookstore hidden between 2 buildings. The place looked abandoned. Dust covered the windows. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. Rows of old books surrounded me. Then a voice spoke from the shadows. "You shouldn't be here." I turned around. An elderly man stood at the back of the store. "Are you Vikram?" I asked. His expression immediately changed. "Who told you that name?" I showed him the note. The moment he saw my father's handwriting, his face turned white. "Rajesh," he whispered. "You knew my father?" The old man nodded slowly. "He saved my life." Hope filled my chest. Finally, someone who knew the truth. I showed him the newspaper clipping. His eyes widened. "They found the file," he said quietly. "What file?" Vikram looked around nervously before answering. "Your father wasn't a criminal." "Then who was he?" Vikram took a deep breath. Then he revealed the secret that changed everything. "Your father worked for an undercover intelligence unit." I stared at him in disbelief. Before I could ask another question, crash! The bookstore window exploded. Glass flew everywhere. Someone had fired a shot. Vikram grabbed my arm, his face filled with fear. "They found us." Another shot shattered a bookshelf. I looked at him. "Who are they?" Vikram's answer sent a cold wave through my body. "The people who betrayed your father." At that moment, the bookstore door slowly began to open. The bookstore door burst open. Armed men rushed inside. Without hesitation, Vikram grabbed my arm and pulled me toward a large bookshelf. "Hurry!" Another gunshot echoed through the store. Books crashed to the floor as bullets tore through the shelves. My heart pounded with fear. Vikram reached behind a row of old books and pulled a hidden lever. To my surprise, part of the bookshelf slid open, revealing a secret staircase. We rushed downstairs just before another shot shattered the wall behind us. The hidden door closed. For a moment, everything became silent. We stood inside a forgotten underground room filled with dusty computers, maps, and locked cabinets. "What is this place?" I asked. Vikram switched on an old light. "This was our safe house. Your father's team." I looked around in disbelief. For years, my father had lived as a simple taxi driver, yet beneath the city existed proof of a completely different life. Vikram opened a cabinet and pulled out a thick file. 4 names were printed on the cover: Rajesh Sharma, Vikram, Mehta, Arjun Kapoor, Kabir, Malhotra, the same 4 men from the newspaper. "The operation began 20 years ago," Vikram explained. "We were sent undercover to investigate a criminal network connected to a massive robbery." "What happened?" I asked. His face darkened. "One of us betrayed everyone." He pulled out an old photograph and pointed to one face: Kabir Malhotra. "He disappeared with the money and left the rest of us to take the blame." I stared at the picture. "So Kabir is the reason all this happened?" Vikram nodded. "Your father spent 20 years searching for him." Suddenly, he handed me an old laptop. "It belonged to your father." The laptop required a password. After several failed attempts, I remembered my father's favorite saying: "Life can change in a single moment." I typed "Singlement." The screen unlocked. Hundreds of files appeared. Photos, addresses, reports, evidence. my father had secretly investigated someone for years. Then, I found a folder named Final Evidence. My pulse raced. Inside was a video recorded only 3 weeks before my father's death. I pressed play. The footage showed the entrance of a luxury hotel. A man stepped out. Vikram gasped. Kabir. After 20 years, the traitor was finally found. But then another man appeared beside him. The moment I saw his face, I froze. He was one of the most powerful businessmen in India, billionaire admired by millions. A man constantly seen on television. Kabir shook his hand. Then they entered the same vehicle and drove away. The video ended. The room fell silent. This can't be real, I whispered. Vikram looked terrified. This is much bigger than we thought. Before either of us could speak again, the light suddenly went out. Darkness filled the room. Then a red laser dot appeared on the wall. Another followed. Then another. Sniper sights. Someone had discovered the safe house, and this time, they weren't coming to scare us. They were coming to make sure we never left alive. The red laser dots moved slowly across the walls of the underground safe house. Snipers. They had found us. Vikram grabbed a metal case and looked at me. We have to leave now. A loud explosion shook the room above us. Dust fell from the ceiling. The attackers were not trying to capture us. They wanted us dead. Vikram opened the metal case and removed several documents. The truth is here, he said. What truth? The truth your father died protecting. Inside the files were classified reports connected to the robbery that happened 20 years ago. As I read through them, everything finally became clear. Kabir Malhotra had betrayed the team, but he wasn't the mastermind. The powerful billionaire from the video had planned everything from the beginning. The robbery was only the first step. The stolen money was used to build a huge empire of corruption, influence, and power. Politicians were bribed. Witnesses disappeared. Investigators were silenced. Anyone who got close to the truth became a target. Then I found a document that made my hands shake. It contained a list of names. Journalists, investigators, former agents. Many were marked as dead. Then I saw my father's name, Rajesh Sharma. The report revealed something terrible. The crash that killed him had not been an accident. He had been murdered. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My father had spent 20 years searching for the truth, and when he finally got close, they killed him. Tears filled my eyes. But before I could speak, Vikram's satellite phone rang. He listened silently for a few seconds before hanging up. His eyes widened. They found Kabir. Where? At a private estate outside Mumbai. Without wasting time, we escaped through an emergency tunnel beneath the safe house. Hours later, we arrived at the estate. Using information from my father's files, we entered through a hidden service passage. Inside, we heard 2 men arguing. One voice belonged to Kabir, the other belonged to the billionaire. We moved closer and listened. You promised to protect me, Kabir shouted. The billionaire looked angry. You became a problem. Kabir laughed bitterly. I helped build everything you have. The billionaire smiled coldly. And now you know too much. Then Kabir said something shocking. Rajesh was right about you. My heart froze. The billionaire finally admitted the truth. He had planned the robbery. He had betrayed the team. He had spent 20 years hiding the evidence. Everything my father suspected was true. Suddenly, armed government agents stormed the estate. The evidence collected by my father had finally reached honest officials. The operation was over. Kabir was arrested. The billionaire was arrested. And the truth that had been buried for 20 years finally came to light. Months later, the scandal shocked the entire country. Corrupt officials were exposed. Secret accounts were discovered. The criminal network collapsed. Justice had finally arrived. 6 months later, I stood beside my father's grave. The evening sun lit the sky with golden colors. In my hands was the letter that had started everything. For the first time, I understood why my father never gave up. He wasn't fighting for money. He wasn't fighting for revenge. He was fighting for the truth. I placed flowers beside his grave and smiled through my tears. You were right, Dad. A gentle breeze passed through the trees. and I remembered the words he had repeated throughout my life. Never judge your future by your present circumstances. Life can change in a single moment. Even after his death, my father finished the mission he had started 20 years earlier. And in the end, the truth won.